I'm John Popovich. Doc and the D is on location today. We're in one of the jewels of the city at the Detroit Institutes of Art. We're in the Rivera Court, the center of the Detroit Institute of Arts, and I'm pleased that Mr. Frank Venegas has joined us of the Ideal Group, one of the great entrepreneurs in the city of Detroit. We want to talk about a bit about the centerpiece of the Rivera Court, and that's the murals, the 27 fresco murals that were produced by Diego Rivera, one of the great artists of the 20th century, who produced this on commission from Edsel Ford, the son of Henry Ford I, our founder at Henry Ford Hospital. Produced this group of 27 fresco murals, which is the Detroit Industry Collection. This is one of the great masterpieces of American and Mexican art. We're very fortunate to have this in the middle of our Detroit Institute of Art. Now, what's the connection, though, between Henry Ford Hospital, Mr. Frank Venegas, the Diego Rivera collection, and really why we are here today? Diego Rivera's wife at the time was Frida Kahlo. And Frida Kahlo was a phenomenal artist in and of herself. She came to Detroit somewhat reluctantly, along with Diego Rivera, and was pregnant and had a miscarriage. And during her miscarriage, she was hospitalized at Henry Ford Hospital. We're fortunate that Frank's connection here is because of his grandmother. And his grandmother, who he'll explain, was the padrina of the Mexican community in Detroit, ministered to Frida during that hospitalization. So Frank, tell me a bit about your grandmother.
Well, you know, as you said, my grandmother was the madrina of the neighborhood, and she was the godmother. They had a job, and my grandfather had a job, and they were a little more affluent than others. And they said that she was pretty smart, and she talked a lot in the community. And being a community leader and being Mexican and here in Detroit, we originally started, and how Mexican Town started was because when we got off the train, we went over to Corktown. And then Corktown grew larger and larger, which is today now Mexican Town. And my grandmother was affluent, and to do a great work of art like this took several years. And she was here. And she liked Mexican food, and she liked to be with the culture of the Mexican people. And she wasn't that far from it. And so, lo and behold, she became a fixture into what was going on and what was happening here in Detroit. At that time, my grandmother just happened to be one of the people that were here. And she got to, and like I say so much, I wish I asked so much more when my grandmother was alive to hear and find out how and why all of this happened. But in a nutshell, she was Mexican, and it was a small community.
Well, Frida went on and described her stay at Henry Ford Hospital in the way that she knew best, and that's through her art. And a very famous painting, perhaps one of her most famous pieces, was Henry Ford Hospital. It is a very raw and perhaps disturbing painting, but shows the type of emotional content that she had within her heart, and obviously translated that into her art. Now, Frank, tell me a bit about the Mexican community at that time. So we're talking about 1932 or 1933. You described it as a relatively small community.
A very small. Originally, my grandparents migrated from Mexico in 1917 and eventually made it here to Detroit. They were, I believe from the records that I figured out, that they either arrived here in Detroit in 1922 or 1923, and my grandfather got a job at Ford Motor Company, and he was one of the people that you read about that got the big pay, the $5 a day to go to work. And he had a job. And then, ironic as it comes to be, is that a lot of Mexicans started to come here to Detroit because of the manufacturing jobs. Kansas City, Chicago, Detroit. This was the mecca of everything. And then the Depression come along, and things got real mean and hard in 31 and 32, and that's when they painted these murals is in that time period. So it was a very, very difficult time here in Detroit. And I found in conversations with my cousin that Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo actually lent money or gave money to Mexican families to go back to Mexico because they wanted to get away from the hard times here. And when I was talking to my cousin today, and she's, oh God, what is she, 83 years old, and she was going on and telling me that my grandma and grandpa said it would get better here, just wait. And they went back, and she was born here in the United States. She was born in 1930, and then she come back and live with my grandma, and that's really the source of a lot of information now on what happened and what was going on here. I remember when I was, I was just a kid because we used to there was no highways, and we always either took Michigan Avenue or the back ways to get to Ford Road to get out to Redford Township. And it was just a real small community. And one of the things that you find in Mexican Town is a lot of the young people, including my father, were into the baseball, were into doing things in the community, going to Tiger Stadium, hawking tickets or whatever it is. But, it's really pretty crazy. One ironic thing about Henry Ford Hospital, that's off of this a little bit, I remember going to Henry Ford Hospital. I must have been only about 8 or 9 years old. And I remember we went in a car, and I forgot a lot, but my grandfather had a car all his life, and that was rare. And I remember going to the hospital, but you weren't allowed to go to the rooms. At that time, if you were a kid, you had to stay down below. But it was nice.
It was funny you talk about your grandfather. My grandfather also worked at Ford Motor Company, and he also had a car for the entire time during the Depression, sure, which was a real asset, at least within the Romanian community, which was on the east side of Detroit, not on the southwest side. And I remember going by with my mother. The first time I remember going by Henry Ford Hospital, and it actually ties in because we were at a baseball game for senior citizens, and my grandfather loved baseball. And we went by Henry Ford Hospital, and I knew he was going to have surgery on the following week. It's one of the reasons why we took him to the ball game. And I saw Henry Ford Hospital up on the and I said, "Grandpa, is that where you're going to get your surgery done?" He says, "Oh no, I'm going to get it at the Union Shop over at on Metro on Tuxedo." So it was funny is that he looked at Henry Ford Hospital as someplace where you went only if you were very, very sick at the time. It really wasn't a place where the usual union guys would be going.
Yeah, and I remember they called it the big hospital.
The big hospital,
exactly.
And
And you go, it was a corridor right up through, to go into this part of town, because this was really where the rich people lived.
Right. It was and still is an incredible jewel. But let me talk a little bit about the community. Let's take a journey from 1932 during the Depression, when the Mexican community here was relatively small, to today. The Mexican community within Southwest Detroit has really undergone tremendous changes to the point now where it's a vibrant area, one of the major growing areas within the city, and a tremendous site of entrepreneurs such as yourself and businesses that are growing in the city.
Well, we are entrepreneurs. Mexicans and Hispanics, they like to be entrepreneurs, and they like to manufacture and produce, and that's what brought us here. But you also look at Mexican Town, Southwest Detroit. It's the only growing part of the city of Detroit, and we're growing at 12-14% a year. And it's not just because it's an easy place to live, but it's a place where you can shop, where you can walk the streets, where you can go into the restaurants, you can eat the Mexican food, and pretty much live in your own community. But maybe the neatest thing of the whole deal is that the pride that we have in Southwest Detroit. That's, I'd like to kind of lead this into a little bit about Henry Ford Hospital, but you've always been here, and really Henry Ford Hospital is really the hospital of Southwest Detroit. And it's always been that way, even now the way that you're investing and going into chess. But the community's just always grown. I had the opportunity because my grandmother, she worked at Banner Laundry, and my grandfather worked at Ford Motor Company, and they wanted me to be an engineer. They sent me to school, but I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I had the chance to start my business 32 years ago. And my thing, I happened to win a Cadillac in a car drawing, and I sold it 9 days later, and I put it with the thing and started my business. Today we're one of the largest Hispanic companies in America. I believe we're the 44th largest Hispanic company in the United States. And we have about 500 employees. We work real hard, but if it wasn't for companies like yours and people like yourself, you know, keeping this thing all put together and coming in there and reaching out and trying to figure out why are we what we are and how we do it. And part of how it gets done and the way we're going to continue this is by the efforts of people like ourselves.
Well, this is, you know, we're blessed in Detroit. You know, I always say that Detroiters have an incredible spirit. We're all immigrants here in Detroit. We came here with great spirit, whether we're entrepreneurs or just hardworking people, really trying to make our lives better for our families. And we've got this rich tapestry, this incredibly rich tapestry of diversity. And Southwest Detroit is one of our most important communities at Henry Ford Hospital. Our involvement in Chas Clinic and the great activities that are done there, and our continued support of many of the school-based clinics as well, are really our hope is to continue to drive that tightness between two really important communities. But again, part of the rich tapestry that we have. So here we've got a fascinating story here. Edsel Ford, the son of perhaps one of the greatest industrialists of the 20th century, commissions a work by an avowed communist to show not only the rewards but the plight of workers here, and portrays this in one of the greatest exhibits that is available here in the U.S. at the beautiful courtyard of Detroit Institute of Arts. We have the tie-in with Henry Ford Hospital, with Frida Kahlo being hospitalized at Henry Ford Hospital, really portraying oftentimes one of the most easily Googled portraits of Henry Ford Hospital is the Kahlo painting of Henry Ford Hospital, which has just such tremendous emotion and just is a tremendous piece of artistic work. And then the great tie-in that we've had with not only Frank's grandmother, but really being able to tie into a community that we had a connection, perhaps even a casual connection at that time between Henry Ford Hospital, but developing it into this very important relationship between an extraordinary community in Southwest Detroit and Henry Ford Hospital. So I want to thank you, Frank, for joining us here and expressing your story. I want to hear a little bit more about your entrepreneurism, because we can use that spirit in medical entrepreneurism just as much as we can in manufacturing of other types of equipment and machinery.
Well, you've been inventing things over at Henry Ford Hospital for years, and I'm sure you're going to keep it up the way you operate. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.